Hi, folks. My name is Girish Bali, the host for Back to Basics, another Back to Basics for another week. Today, we are going to be talking about 0 to 1 million, cash flow to a cookbook to an author. Those are the words that we'll be using that today. And it's really fascinating, isn't it? 0 to 1 million. No one would think that, right? The only thing that we think about is a 0 to 1,000 because that's the only way to think. That's how we were taught to think. Now, think out of the box, and today's the day that we're going to think out of the box. His name is Gordon, and I spoke with him weeks before. Amazing person, great personality, awesome dude. And today we're going to talk in detail about cash and cash flow and his cookbook. So let's talk to Gordon. Gordon, how are you? And thanks for coming to Back to Basics.
Hey, terrific, Girish. Thanks. Great to be here.
Yeah. So before we start about the topic for today and the 0 to 1 million, the cookbook and the cash flow, what does Back to Basic mean to you?
I think it's a great idea. It's about getting to the essence of something. You know, people often get mired in the detail. They pick up noise, they pick up ideas here and there. What's the core of something? How do you do it right? And how do you do it in a simple way that makes a big difference in terms of its outcome? That's what it means to me.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Gordon, for coming here and making my day brighter. Out of this whole mess that we're gone into during the COVID and post-COVID. So thank you again for coming here.
Pleasure.
So before we start to the topic, can I just ask you about the title of the book, if you don't mind? Right? Where did this title come from? Did the title come first, or the thought process of the book come first?
Well, it started with an idea or two, ways of saving money on things, minimal effort, minimal sacrifice. And for me, I found a way of getting car washes for free. And I thought that's pretty cool. No, it took almost no effort. Then I found a way of slashing the cost of my home alarm monitoring. And so that became a list of these ideas. I thought, what else is there? Minimal effort, minimal sacrifice, things that make a big difference. And the list grew, and then it became a spreadsheet. Then I looked at the future value of investing these savings monthly over time, and it turned out to be a huge number. Took it to my accountant, had him check things over, and he said, this would make a great book. So I started to write it as a novel, and I had characters all lined up and everything, and it just didn't fit as a novel, and I was frustrated. And under my breath one day, I said, it's just more like a cookbook. And I thought, oh my goodness, that's exactly what it is. It's a cash flow cookbook. So it's easy recipes, ways of freeing up monthly cash flow that you can use to pay down debt more aggressively, or you can apply to incremental investment. Cash flow cookbook.
Thank you. Thank you again. Thank you again for that. Why 0 to 1 million? Why not a 0 to 1,000, as I said earlier in the introduction? So what are your thoughts on that part?
Well, the power of compounding is really quite remarkable. So just as one example, if you could free up $400 a month, invested at 7% for 40 years, think of that as a working career, you'd have an extra $1 million. So it's this idea of 0 to 1 million. But how do you get there really easily? How do you add another $1 million of wealth at your retirement? And that's a great way of applying the book.
Yeah, thank you again, Gordon. There was an article that I read months ago, maybe a couple of months back. There was a janitor who was working in New York City, never married, no kids, and he passed away just recently. And we found out from the bank at what his bank balance was. Do you want to take a guess what it was?
I think I know the story. Do you want me to guess anyway?
Sure, go for it.
It was $8 million, something like that.
Yes, it was.
Janitor.
So it was a basic life that he led, and he did his job to the fullest, like he's a regular janitor. So now the question is, what do you think he was doing? I mean, he's not investing on anything. He's just doing his day to 9 to 5 job, right? Weekends free, low income, obviously. So what do you think his thought process was when he was saving money?
Well, I think, there's so many stories, and that's a remarkable one. The other side of the coin, you look at someone like Nicolas Cage, who of course makes millions and millions, and he at one point was completely flat broke.
Right.
So obviously you can make more money. That certainly helps the cause. But I think being rich is when you spend less than you make. And the longer that you do that, the richer you get. It's no more complicated than that. But here's the key, and I think this is probably the key with that janitor and anyone else who wants to build wealth, minimal effort, minimal sacrifice, is that, people see it as this tug of war. Do I spend now and enjoy my life, or do I live this Spartan existence and have a great retirement? And I think the answer to that is yes. And I say yes because you can do both. You can have a great life now and have a great retirement. And I think the place to start is to grind down these monthly bills that eat up a huge amount of cash flow. There's a way of reducing all of those bills systematically. And that's what Cash Flow Cookbook's all about.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you again. It's a catch-22 statement that what I'm going to say here. I don't have enough money, but I need to save money to make more money. So does that mean that I need more salary, or do I need to save less or save more? So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, more salary always helps. Let's not forget that.
Yeah.
And not wasting money on lotteries and so on, that also helps.
Yeah.
But I think really the key is, people talk about saving 10% of your gross income. And if you save 10% of your gross income, the numbers will work out such that you should have a decent, and invest it smartly, you should have a decent retirement at 65. Now, if you save, 15% or 20%, invest it wisely, you can have a fabulous, retirement. That janitor probably, he was saving 60%, living quite frugally. But for most of us, you look at some of the savings rates of 2 or 3%. If you're only saving 2 or 3% of what you make, you'll never retire. You'll hit 65 and not have enough to live on. You'll hit 70, you still won't have enough to live on. So the idea is you want to increase that savings rate. And there's a couple ways to do it. You could give up all the great things that you love, or you could get smarter on all the things that I talk about in Cash Flow Cookbook. There's a way to lower every bill. When you do that, the idea is as soon as you lower that bill, you save, let's say, $100 on your car insurance by buying that more wisely. Immediately, you take that $100, get that to your financial advisor, or pay down some high interest debt. And you just keep doing that. It doesn't take a lot of time. Once you get it set up, you check in on it once a year, and you're going to be on a path to wealth and financial freedom.
Yeah, thank you again, Gordon. There was something going in my mind right now. Is there's a lot of people who refinance their house and pay off a certain loan, and they're only paying mortgage. So does that mean your equity is going to just keep on going and going and going for the next 15, 20, 30 years, but then you have no loans available, right? And then you have more savings? Or it's a catch-22, then it increases again, right? So what are your thoughts on that part?
Well, I think if you have, lots of people have a number of different kinds of debt. So you might have mortgage debt, you might have credit card debt, you might have car loans, all of these things. So one of the things that I talk about in Cash Flow Cookbook is you want to set up a little debt schedule, just a simple sheet of paper, a spreadsheet, whatever. What are all of these debts, and what's the interest rate that you're paying on all of them? So mortgages tend to be among the lowest interest rate debt, and here in the US, for most people, they're tax deductible. So you don't really want to be in a big hurry to pay those off. On the other hand, people who have expensive credit card debt at 20, 22, 24%, that's a 5-alarm blaze emergency. You want to get that paid off as quickly as you can. So, with the refinancing, I'm less fussed about that. I'm more concerned about people who are carrying really high interest rate loans, because those are pulling backwards on your finances in a world where you're trying to drive your finances forward.
Yeah, thank you again, Gordon, for that. What are the 3 main questions that people ask you for an advice? Because you have a book and you have a recipe. What are the 3 major things that people ask you?
Well, whenever I do any public speaking, I like to survey the audience in advance, get a bit of a feel for what they're interested in. So everyone's different. I would say, the big thing is that people are trying to get to a place of financial wellness. They're trying to get to comfort with their money. The stat is Americans with children, 65% of them live paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
40% of divorces list finances as their primary cause for the divorce.
Mm.
And you've got 62% of Americans retiring with less than $10,000. So really the three questions, they really boil down to one thing, I think, and that is this idea of how do you get to peace with your money, and how do you get to a place of financial freedom where you're not stressing about money every month and you can relax and enjoy your life. And that's really what Cash Flow Cookbook is all about. That's the answer is in that book of how do you get to that place.
Yeah, thank you again, Gordon. Is it the experience that you went through that you created this book, or did you learn from other people?
Well, the book in total was 2 years of research. As I say, it started with this one idea where, on a fluke, I stumbled into this way to save on car washes, then how to save on home alarm monitoring. And what was interesting and unique about those two things, like I save about $50 a month. That's not going to change anyone's financial trajectory. But what struck me is they were so easy. I mean, they didn't take 15 minutes to make these changes on those two expenses. Not that they're big ones, but that got me curious. And so then I started keeping a little journal of ideas that I came across. And I said, look, it has to be something that saves at least $25 a month. And here's the key: minimal effort, minimal sacrifice. So sometimes you go on personal finance blogs and people are saying, oh, you want to make your own cleaning products. No, I don't want to make my own cleaning products. You want to put tinfoil on your windows to reduce your air. I don't want tinfoil on my windows. I want to look out my windows. So there's so many ideas out there that are preposterous. What's unique about Cash Flow Cookbook is these are things that are easy to do. You can read through the book. There's 60 financial recipes. So these are ideas that free up cash flow. For most people, there's probably maybe 10 or 12 that they would say, yes, I haven't been doing that. And lots of them, people might say, oh, I've already done that. Or people say, that doesn't apply to me. And that's great. So you pick a handful of the ones that fit with you. All told, it might take you 10 or 15 hours to go ahead and make these changes. And you're not sacrificing anything at all. On top of that, if you want to live a more frugal lifestyle, no problem. You go ahead and do that. But why not go after the easy things first and the things that most people don't even think about?
Yeah, thank you again for that. We're not going to bash any company or anything like that, but let me just ask you this here: the other the big medium companies, the content companies that we stream movies on, okay, those monthlies and the yearlies are very attractive, right? But where do you stop? Because it seems like it's going to be more expensive than the cable TV that we have been tamed back in the days, right? And obviously it's going to be more money than the stream. But just an example. So what are your thoughts on that? I mean, we should keep track of this, or there's a difference between need and want now, right? So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's a great example. So with every category that we spend, there's ways of doing it in a less costly way without giving up anything, right? So here's a great place to start with your finances. So as an example, if you think about the whole video and content world, there's lots of different ways to tackle that one, and it would depend on what people are doing right now. So not unusual if you're with one of the big cable companies and you've got cable and maybe you've got landline on there and so on, and internet. Not unusual to have a bill of maybe $250 a month in the household. So the television portion might be $120, $150, but there's different ways you could tackle that one. So for example, YouTube TV can give you that same content. It's now in a streaming format, but you can get sports and much of what you'd see on regular. Or oftentimes what happens is people sign up for an incremental cable TV channel to see one show that they wanted to watch 4 years ago. Right. They never canceled it. It's still running there, So it's really about taking a look at all of these things and doing them a smarter way. The TV one and the content one is interesting because as time goes on, there's new offerings, and people don't often take the time. They just keep going along the way that they're going. So as an example, with Apple, people who are in the Apple ecosystem, they have a thing called Apple One. And it gives you, I don't know what it is, 5 or 6 different services. So lots of cloud storage for your phone, for your pictures or whatever. It's got a fitness app that I use all the time. I get on my spin bike and it's got workouts on there, fresh new workouts every week. Gets you an Apple TV Plus. So here's a whole bunch more entertainment. So as an example of that, I think I pay $25 a month, but you're getting so much content and so much value out of it. It's really a great way to go. So it's very personal. It would depend on the situation, but in the book, I lay out exactly how you go through each and every one of these bills and how to reduce them all, and all of them can be reduced.
Yeah,
So your example on content would be just one example.
yeah. Thank you again, Gordon, for that. Let me just go and speak with the audience here 1 second, because I just thought it came into my mind.
Yeah.
So, guys, when you have cable TV services and when you have modem services, right? There's an option in the bill. It says rental for modems, right? Did you know those are rentals, which means that you can buy modems separately, and then just eliminate that $5 fee or the $3 fee. So I'm not saying that's what you should do, but there's a catch, right? And I've been doing this for the last 6-7 years now, and I'm really no rentals on my modem right now as we speak, and it's been quite fruitful on that part. So same thing with your landline. For a landline, just an FYI, you can get a Google adapter and you can put your Google number in there, and you don't need a landline. It's free of charge. That's it, simple. So Gordon, thank you again for that. Those are tidbits that I came up with, and hopefully it'll work for other people. It worked for me for so many years. So thank you again for understanding that. Do you have any thoughts on that? Do you have any nuggets that you want to share?
There's so many. We can talk about some categories maybe that we haven't gotten to yet, Grace, if that's all right.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
One that was really interesting, and it's one that I added recently to the US edition of the book, and that is credit rating. People don't think about their credit rating. They don't know their credit rating. Maybe they start thinking about it if they get turned down on an apartment rental or, but most of it just go along. We don't know what it is. We don't concern ourselves. But it really is quite powerful. It's maybe the most interesting recipe in the book for me. And as I did the research, knowing what your credit score is. And so everybody gets, if you have a better credit score, you can get higher limits on credit cards and so on. But the impact on your finances is shocking. So from a poor credit rating to a good one can vary your total loan interest on, say, a car loan by 70%. 70%. It can change the cost of your home insurance and your car insurance by 30 to 50%. So in many cases, people have the money, they don't get around to paying the bills, they're a bit lackadaisical about it. They're not, and many credit reports have errors in it. So you may be getting penalized for an error in your credit report you weren't even aware of, and yet you're paying more for loans, you're paying more for all of these things. So when you go to a car dealer, let's say you buy a new or used car and you get some financing, they'll quote you and they'll say, okay, this car, it's $562 a month for 60 months or whatever the loan is. If your credit score is a little better, it may be $472 a month,
right?
Or something of that nature. So one quick tip is get to know your credit score. You can get it online for free. And then see what you can do to improve it. You can work on it yourself. There's lots of good YouTube articles and things about how to fix your credit score. That can make a really big difference. That's a very powerful one. And it's one I think a lot of people miss. Another one that's really interesting that I found when I did the research is clothing. And when I'm up on stage doing a talk and I mention the category of clothing, people say, oh, no, I like having nice clothes, like shopping. But the research tells us that we only ever wear 25% of the clothing that we buy. It's hard to believe, but it's the truth. And if you ever watched, a show on Netflix like Marie Kondo, who's tidying up in people's houses,
right?
The tidy up lady, and garbage bag after garbage bag coming out of people's homes, a lot of it's clothing. And if you do the math, I think these bags typically would be about $1,000 of clothing per bag. This is money that people spend. And again, in keeping with the principle of Cash Flow Cookbook, not giving up anything. So if I buy a shirt and I'm all excited because it's on sale and it's a designer brand, I don't take the time to try it on, I get it home, I cut the tags off, I hang it in my closet, I try it on one day, and the sleeves are too short. So if I have an important meeting, I'm not going to head out with my sleeves too short.
Right.
We go into our closet, we're looking for our best outfit. We want to look the best we can. Which means that it's the same outfits that get worn over and over again. So people who don't shop mindfully for clothing, that means they're going to be buying these second and third stringer outfits that they'll never wear. And all that money gets thrown out. You're going to gather it up a year later or 2 years later. You're going to put it in a trash bag and you're going to go donate it to, hopefully donate it to a charity. Hopefully they don't throw it out. But just incredibly wasteful. So you could actually spend more money on spending more mindfully more outfits, more clothing that you really like, but waste less money and still have more cash flow freed up for investment or debt pay down.
Mm-hmm.
There's a second one that's really quite interesting. But in the book, I go through 6 major categories. So we talk about housing, transportation, food, household, lifestyle, and financial. So it's every possible expense, even things like changing currencies. People who are traveling to different countries and back and forth. There's smart and there's not so smart ways of changing your currency. So a lot of people waste a lot of money on something that's kind of hidden like that. They don't think about it. So it's a great way to get your finances tuned up and get to a place of financial wellness.
Yeah. Thank you again for that. And just an FYI, guys, if you're paying off a credit card, you can pay off your credit card, but don't close the account because that would also hurt your credit score. I don't know if you know that, Gordon. It does that. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, they look at, well, it's fairly complicated how they do the arithmetic to get to a credit score, but one of the measures that you're referring to is credit utilization. So if your credit, you have total credit availability of $10,000, and at the time they do the credit score, you've got $9,000 on the cards, even if you're going to pay it off that month, they would say you have a 90% credit utilization. That would count against you. But they also look at, how many credit cards and how many credit checks have been done against you. That hurts you. Different kinds of credit. It's fairly complicated, but I think it's worthwhile for people to get to know it a little bit and and try and improve their score. Check for errors on the report.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, whoever wants to listen to the episode that I did in earlier this month, we talked about credit score and the relationships of credit scores, so you can listen to that also. So it'll be like tied into this one too. Thank you again, Gordon, for that. And you said there was some other nuggets on your book that you made some additions besides the credit score.
Oh yeah, there's so many. I mean, the book is evolving all the time. So I think it was 7 printings of the original Canadian edition. I'm Canadian. I've now become an American, moved to the U.S. The U.S. one is literally about to hit the shelves. By the time people hear your podcast, it'll be out there on Amazon. But really in every category, one that's quite interesting. Another one that I added fairly recently is grocery store loyalty cards. A lot of people don't bother. You go to the same grocery store every month, you buy your groceries, and they say, "Oh, do you want to get our loyalty card?" Whatever. They can be quite lucrative. Depends on the grocery store. The one my wife and I go to, it shows your running tally of how much you've saved by having the loyalty card. And literally, it's 10 minutes to sign up for the loyalty card. They scan it each time you're in. But I don't pick my groceries depending on, all these other things. You just scan the card, away you go. And the running total shows us running about $1,200 a year savings from having this loyalty card for 10 minutes of work, So there's lots of other ones, in food. Another one from the food category that's really quite interesting is frozen food is dramatically cheaper than fresh. Things like, frozen berries, all that kind of stuff. And you may not even think about the category. You walk into the fruits, I need some berries, you get the berries. But the frozen ones would be a fraction. They might be a half, a quarter, the price of fresh ones. So every category, there's ways of saving on everything from, your house taxes, your mortgage interest, every single bill that you have, all of your utility bills can be dramatically reduced. Minimal effort, maximum value.
Yeah. I mean, it does take extra effort to go over your bills and your ledger, as you want to call it, almost every couple of weeks, isn't it? I mean, if you do once a month, I think it's already too late. I think, don't you feel?
Well, I would say it would probably take an hour or two. So in the book, there's 60 recipes. Again, people read the book, and when they read the book, I like it when they put yellow stickies on it, mark it up. It's a workbook. You can make it work for you. So when you do that, you might find, let's say you find 10 recipes that are of value. I would say at most, it's going to take you 2 hours to implement the changes that I'm suggesting, or research it for yourself, see what you think. And that's it. So, a typical person, it might take them 10 or 20 hours worth of work to free up, say, $1,000 a month. That's a big deal. I don't know what people can do in 20 hours to get themselves, it's not $1,000, it's $1,000 every month.
Right.
And then maybe once a year, you go back and just check it all out again. And I'll throw this out. The average American watches 20 hours of TV a week.
That's right.
So the reality is, yeah, they do have the time. So if you gave up 1 week of TV, took a couple hours to read Cash Flow Cookbook, and then set aside 1 week of TV free to implement everything in the book, I think you got a good shot of freeing up $500, $750, $1,000 or more a month, and that makes a big difference in people's finances at really any income level.
Yeah, Gordon, thank you again, and hopefully I'll get the book and I'll put it on my shelf here, and I'll read it once in a while, and I'll keep on tapping you if I have any questions on that.
Sure.
Okay, Gordon, thank you again for coming on the show. But before you leave today, do you have any last words to all my listeners and my viewers? And how is your journey on your Back to Basics here so far?
Yeah, well, wonderful to be on the show, and I love what you're doing. This really helps people. I like how you're cutting to the chase of things and helping people with news that they can use. I would just say last thoughts, I'll give you a few summary points. The first thing is, as I say in the book, step one is you're going to broil a bill. Take a bill and do a little bit of research, do a little bit of work. I tell you exactly how to do it in the book, reduce the bill. And step two is you want to savor the savings, meaning take that monthly savings and right away commit it to paying down a car loan or a credit card faster, or give it to a financial advisor to start to build some wealth. And then I think the third thing I'll offer is you really want to track your wealth. People focus often on a monthly budget, which is okay, but you can make your budget every month and still retire with no savings. So better still is to track your wealth. What do you own minus what you owe? There's a template to track that on cashflowcookbook.com. And that tells you the number that you've got in terms of wealth. And is it going up or is it going down each month? Track it every month for a year, then quarterly thereafter, and it'll change your whole awareness about your money. When you have wealth, it just isn't about buying a Ferrari or something, or maybe it is. But if you have wealth, you have choices. You can go work in the family business. You could go build a school in Nepal. You could give more money to a charity. You could support your children with their education. Whatever you want to do, you've got options. You've got financial freedom. And that's what Cash Flow Cookbook is all about.
Yeah. Gordon, thank you again for coming on my show and making this brighter. Teaching all these small nuggets out of your book and small bits of it. It's a great journey that you have given us. And thank you again for coming here. And as usual, as always, what people they usually say is health is wealth, isn't it? And wealth is health. It's the other way around or the other way around. But you understand what I'm saying there. So thank you again for coming here.
A real pleasure. Thank you so much, Girish.
Thank you. So guys, we spoke with Gordon today and we talked about the wealthness and we talked about the money, the zeros, the millions, the budgeting. Those are the cookbooks and those are the recipes that he has in his books. And it's great. And obviously you have to take control. My father used to say, take control of your money because you're the only one who has it. No one else. Now, as usual, as always, there's a quote of the day from Back to Basics, and hopefully my guest will like the quote. The quote is, "A man with $1 million can be as happy nowadays as though he were rich." So guys, as usual, as always, what do I always say at the end of the episode? Everything in life goes back to basics, and that's what we did today, guys. Guys, take care, God bless, and keep on commenting on all my episodes. It helped me every day, day by day, from your comments. Makes me stronger. And there are 3 things in every episode makes me the happiest man in the world and a successful episode. There are 3 things, which is the content, the guest, and definitely the host. Guys, take care, God bless, and I will see you next time on Back to Basics. Take care, God bless. Next week's episode on Back to Basics.
Personal topics.
Yeah.
But I think to have both is important.
But I thank you again, Jason, for that. But how
you have daily contact with on social media that you really don't get too involved in your personal life with. And then you have friends that, if you need a favor, if you need to talk to your friends about something personal, then, that's something completely different.
Yeah. Thank you again. And, when you have mental issues and going through some stuff in your life,